Nick of Time is the Twilight Zone at its minimalistic best. Nearly the whole episode takes place in a little diner's booth, focusing on the interaction between the two main characters. Of course, in this show, there's a third party causing a disturbance. Don and Pat Carter are newlyweds on their honeymoon trip to New York City. However, their car has broken down in the small town of Ridgeview, Ohio. While they wait for it to be fixed, the couple gets some food at the local diner, where a penny fortune teller machine sits inside their booth. Don slowly becomes obsessed with its answers after the machine correctly predicts his new promotion. Pat and her husband argue about what to do next when it's implied they shouldn't leave Ridgeview. Choice, superstition, and coincidence collide in this small-scale story. The most obvious thing to point out about this episode is the first appearance of one William Shatner. This was a few years before Star Trek and his more well-known episode, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. He's great in this role, and doesn't have too many Shatnerisms that he became known for later, but there are a few.
Are we going to live in the East? Are we going to live in the West?
Are you just going to stay here?
I don't know.
His chemistry with Patricia Breslin is really strong here. They're a believable couple going through their first big conflict, as the Pat character is seeing glimpses of Don's intense superstition, to the point where she starts to question the man she just married, going from believing in him wholeheartedly to having a crisis of confidence across the story. After a few more of the machine's quasi-predictions seem to come true, such as a car almost hitting them in the street outside, she pleads with Don to listen to reason.
When that car almost hit us, it was 3 o'clock. Exactly when that machine said it.
You said 3 o'clock, not the machine. You decided to sit in here as long as we did. You. Can't you see that you made up all the details? And all that thing did was give back generalities?
I can't play that whole scene, but it's very naturally acted by these two, and worth seeing for yourself. They have a genuine quality with each other that makes them convincing in their loving, but also bickering moments. Nick of Time was written by Richard Matheson in his first of only 2 episodes penned for the second season. It was inspired by his own experience of traveling with his wife and finding a similar fortune teller machine in the booth of a diner. Matheson would get Shatner back as his lead in another script he wrote, that being down the road in the previously mentioned Season 5 classic, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Richard L. Baer returned to direct this episode, and it was the second time he helmed a script inspired by one of Matheson's stories. Back in Season 1, he directed Third from the Sun, which was written by Serling but adapted from Matheson's short story of the same name. While that episode dealt more with tension, atmosphere, and foreboding visuals, Nick of Time was a much smaller in scope tale that focused on the dialogue between the two main characters. Tension is still present, but its deceptively simple cinematography and setting seem to intentionally highlight the broader discussion of ideologies being debated. After being so engrossed with the machine and its vague answers for quite a while, Don finally listens to his wife's appeal that they should live life by one's own choices.
It doesn't matter whether it can foretell the future. What matters is whether you believe more in luck and in fortune than you do in yourself. We can have a wonderful life together if we make it wonderful ourselves.
Inspired by his wife's words, Don gains the courage to step back out into the world with Pat by his side. They resolve their first big lovers' quarrel and leave the diner just as another couple enters. Looking worn down and haggard, they approach the same fortune teller machine and begin asking it more questions. They're obviously slaves to the answers and have been in Ridgeview for quite some time. The episode ends on their desperate expressions of despair. I really enjoyed this episode and the moral of the story. Dwelling on what could or might happen should never hold one back from living their lives to the fullest. It's not quite a blanket sentiment because of course there are nuances to consider in every case, but the general statement I got from this episode was a powerful one. Make your own life as happy as possible. Some of us have more obstacles to overcome than others, and this is all much easier said than done. But trying to keep that mindset is important to me personally, so I connected with it in a big way. It's left ambiguous whether or not the fortune-telling machine was really predicting the future, but I love how the Pat character says it doesn't matter. That's what I took away from this one, and it's definitely a recommendation. Check it out if you haven't, and if you have, tell me what you thought of the overall message in the comments below. Or don't. It's your choice to make, whether you're in or out of the Twilight Zone.